Hey, it's Super Slot 75 movie reviews. Now, this is going to be a little different. Normally, this type of content I would just leave mainly on my movie review channel page, but it was so many different hidden gems and so many different references and nuances. I have to put this on both my main page and my movie review page. And what I'm talking about season 2 of Castlevania. Yes, I know you're laughing and snickering. You're like, oh, the Nintendo game for Konami. Listen, season 1 was epic. This one takes it even a step further. I would implore anybody before you read this, you watch this review, if you got questions and you're lost, you're not following, definitely go check out the first season. It is still on Netflix. Magnificent job by Adi Shankar. Adi Shankar did the Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He also did a reimagining of the Power Rangers. So let me get right into it. We're gonna break this thing down by episode. It's 8 episodes. I spent the last 5 hours watching and taking notes. So please bear with me and just my excitedness. I'm excited for this because there's so many different things. I'm sitting here like, wow, they really put this in this cartoon or this in an anime flick. Okay, so let's get right into it. Episode 1, War Council. First thing does, it gives a backstory, kind of flashback scenes here and there to get everybody up to speed in case they forgot what was going on after the first season. Basically, first season, Dracula, Vlad Tepes, that's his name, Vlad Tepes Dracula, falls in love with Lisa, a woman named Lisa. They have a kid named Alucard. Well, actually, his name is Adrian Tepes, aka Alucard. They have a child. Lisa's like, hey, humanity's not such a bad thing. You should go see the world, go see more about humanity, go learn. So while he's off abroad, I'm really giving the backstory to the season 1, wrapping it up. The bishop from the emissary from the Catholics, they hear about Lisa's work because she's a spiritualist, she's a herbalist, and she's a doctor. So what ended up happening was Dracula gave Lisa all the knowledge, all the lost past knowledge of humanity, and she uses that to help people, help and heal and cure the sick. Word gets out. Of course, the bishop's not too happy about that from being a church. They go to her house. They basically accuse her of being a witch, burn her house. They burn her at the stake. Dracula finds out. He declares war on humanity. Now you're up to speed. Okay, so the first episode, War Council, Dracula is clearly depressed. I get the backstory of Lisa Tepes, of how she was helping people. She's a herbalist doctor, uses knowledge. His 2 appointed generals, the whole kind of mid-plot twist or mid-shocker is that they're humans, Hector and Isaac. Isaac is a brother. He has an African accent, but nonetheless, Isaac is a brother. This should be interesting. Two human generals, and Drac is like, these are my guys. Out of all his generals, he has a whole bunch of vampire generals, and out of all of those guys, he appoints the 2 humans to lead his war machine council in his war against humanity. And Hector and Isaac have also interesting backstories. They're okay with wiping out humanity because themselves have lost faith in humanity and don't want nothing to do with humanity. So they're all on board. And of course, the vampire generals are like, what the hell? All right, so moving on, we show Alucard, aka Adrian Tepes. He rejects his father's sides and takes up the cause to destroy his father for the sake of his mother, of Wallachia. Hector's backstory briefly: he's a young alchemist. He's despised by his mother for doing the alchemy. His father's like, yo, use the alchemy for money and power. That's what you're supposed to use it for. Basically, Hector wants to use alchemy to resurrect dead animals and keep them as pets. He has a very childlike view of the world, very simplistic. Really doesn't work for him to navigate through the world in the way he sees things, but it'll come back to bite him in the end. Okay, Godbrand. Godbrand is a Viking vampire, and he is one of the staunch dissenters. He staunchly opposes having 2 humans as lead counsel as generals for his war council. he questions Drax's reasoning for wiping out humanity, because he gets it. Like, look, if we kill all the humans, what are we going to feed on? He doesn't want to eat. He doesn't want to deal with animals. He hates drinking pig's blood, whatever the case may be. So Godbrand, he understands the natural balance of things. Okay, so getting to episode 2, Old Homes. Trevor and Alucard decide to go to Belmont Estate to look for clues to defeat Track. So if you remember in the first season, Trevor and Alucard and Cypher linked up and fought the battle at Griseldi. The city starts with a G, and they kind of staved off the initial attack there. So they go to the old Belmont Estate because they know they need way more than Distant 3, and to look for artifacts and spells and stuff to help defeat Dracula. Okay. And then you learn that Dracula can move his castle, jump, warp, hyper warp, portals, whatever the case may be. So Dracula understands magic, very well versed in magic. He uses magic. He uses a war engine. There's a cube. It's a multi-faceted cube that he uses in his engine room to jump his castle from location to location at the blink of an eye. Okay. Then there's Camilla. Camilla shows up in this particular episode. Even though she was summoned for last season, she makes her appearance now. She questions the War Council. She even questions Dracula, and defiantly, openly in front of everybody. She asks him, "Well, why didn't you turn your wife into a vampire?" So then Drac gets pissed, and they're like, "Hey, we need private counsel." So then she's in his private chambers, and they're talking. And then she's like, "Look, I just had to get everybody's attention. The War Council is distracted. We need a common goal." And she's like, "I'm here to help, whatever the case may be." She has ulterior motives. Camilla's a sneaky chick, okay? Gotta watch out for Camilla. Alucard gives his backstory on how his parents met. Basically, Lisa, Alucard's mother, actually went to Drax's castle, banging on the door with a knife in her hand. And she banged on the door that she would not leave until Drac opened the door. He opens the door, and she demanded that he teach her how to be a doctor. That's how they met. He fell in love with this woman, and so on and so forth. Okay. Alucard then talks about Drac's plans to terraform the Earth. He mentions a machine that can pull clouds to block out the sun. That gives a reference to chemtrails. Very interesting stuff. Hector's full backstory is beaten by Hector, the brother, the other half of the lead general council. Okay. His backstory was he was beaten by a priest. Priest took him in. He wanted to learn. He was sneaking knowledge and learning all the stuff about religion, and wanted to help his priest guardian. The priest guardian finds out, starts beating Hector with this leather strap with metal spikes on the ends of it. So he's beating the boy. He wanted to know why the boy did what he did. He told the boy. The boy told him, young Hector said, "Yo, because I love you, and I want to help you, in your cause and your studies." So then the priest flips on him and says, "You know what? No." Beats him some more. Says, "There's no love. There's no humanity." Just starts beating this into him. And this is how this is how Hector ends up with the mindset of that. There's no humanity. There's no love. Very, very, very rigid, very dogged, very pragmatic outlook on things of life. Okay. So what ends up happening is Hector ends up killing the man. He gouges out his eyes, and then you can see. Oh wow, did I mess up here? Hector and Isaac. Isaac. Yes, Isaac. Isaac will sit in solitude and beat his back with the same strap that the priest guardian used to beat him with the leather strap with the metal spikes on the end of it. So that's what he would do in his time of solitude. He would beat himself in the back as for discipline and peace, in his words, and to keep him focused on the agenda at hand. Okay. The generals decide to take, there's a big discussion. The generals want Dracula to overtake the city of Brayla as opposed to Argesh. All right. Brayla is a water city, a river town. And Camilla wants to try to convince Dracula to take Brayla because ulterior motives would favor Brayla towards the end, which we'll get into. This is right account. Okay, so they send out a creature to attack Alucard, Belmont, and Cypher. The one creature returns back with information. So Camilla suggests they go to Belmont's home to observe and kill any remaining Belmonts because Camilla understands, all the vampire generals understand how dangerous a threat any Belmont alive can be to the vampire clan. Okay, episode 3, Shadow Battles. Young Hector's full backstory is he finds a dead puppy, he finds 2 alchemical coins, and he plays with the coins, and he figures out how to forge through necromancy, how to resurrect the dead dog. He brings the dead dog home. His parents flip out. Basically, Hector sets his parents on fire, and then goes into a life of solitude of reanimating dead animals to keep them as pets. And he's an outcast at this point. Camilla tries to convince Hector to send a search party to the Belmont home behind Dracula's back. Hector tells how he and Dracula had met. So basically, after Dracula's wife Lisa died, Dracula went to Hector for help and asked him, hey, I need an army. So basically, Hector and Isaac are forge masters. What they do is they supply Dracula's army of undead or night horde. They reanimate the dead and bring them back to life as necromancy, as soldiers for Dracula's army. That's what their speciality is. They're called forge masters. Okay. Camilla then recommends that the dead are loyal to the forge master. Okay, and then she asks Hector to create a specific breed of dead and soldiers only loyal to Hector himself. Okay, that's going to come back to play in a few couple episodes. And they're going to once again try to convince Drac to attack the city of Brayla. Trevor, Alucard, and Cypher arrive at the Belmont estate. So they're trying to get into the underground layer. There's a underground bunker that the Belmont estate has created. Cypher uses Enochian magic to open the door. Little things here and there that just, kind of stick out to me. So then they get down. They're in the underground layer. Travis Belmont finds his ancestors' greatest weapon against the vampires, which is the Morning Star. Yes, it's an actual mace-like weapon. For those that have played the video game, you know how important the Morning Star is. Like an upgraded whip. It's a metal whip, magical whip. Yes, for those that played the game, you understand what the Morning Star is. The Morning Star. Godbrand then asks Drac, what will the vampires eat? Once again, questioning Dracula. Dracula threatens to kill Godbrand if he basically doesn't get out of his face. Godbrand leaves off, runs into Camilla. Camilla's like, hey, we have a common problem. Drax lost his mind. He's depressed with this woman, over a human woman at that. We need to kind of get him out the way to take over things and run things how we see fit. Okay. Camilla's backstory, she's taken in by a vampire master, and he promised her, a life of, vampire opulence and wealth and all this good stuff. He became like Dracula, old and just kind of senile and kind of losing it. So she kills her vampire master. Camilla represents the Lilith aspect of all this. Okay, she mainly her legion of vampires is mainly female, and she states that she will never ever be under a senile old manly vampire ever again. Episode 4, Broken Mast. Trevor and the gang discover Belmont's distance mirror. And now mirrors are important in this particular season. Everybody uses mirrors to communicate or to travel. Okay, so Dracula has a 400-year-old Carpathian mirror that he uses to either communicate or to travel to different dimensions. All vampires can communicate through mirrors. Mirrors are very, very important because we know in the esoteric world, mirrors are like gateways and portals to different things, okay? Camilla and Hector question Drac's motives and his love for Lisa. Camilla reveals her reasoning for wanting to attack Brayla. Drac's forces are... Okay, so what's going to happen is Camilla wants to send everybody to Brayla, and while Dracula's forces are out taking over the city, she's going to have her forces come in underneath and kind of attack Dracula while he's in a weakened state, because Dracula has not been feeding. This whole time, Dracula has not fed at all, so he's in a very weakened state, and Camilla sees, blood in the water at this point. Okay. Drake visits... Okay, backstory of when Dracula visits Isaac. He asks Isaac, hey, are you going to invite me over across your threshold? which he does. And so they reminisce on how they met. Isaac tells how he was being hunted by other magicians so they could kill him and sell his body parts to other magicians working harvesting for spells, potions, and aphrodisiacs. So Isaac, the brother, is fiercely loyal to the death to Dracula, and we will see that play out towards the end. Okay, Godbrand is tired of drinking pig's blood. Other generals want to go on a fighting party, so Godbrand convinces the other vampires to go on a feeding party at a town nearby, 20 miles away. So they go attack this town and kill everybody and drink their blood. Okay, and then Isaac and Dracula have a heart-to-heart. Kind of, you can see where that Dracula really trusts Isaac, and he tells him, "Hey, this is my real intentions, whatever the case may be." All right. Okay, so then Godbrand goes to Isaac and about Dracula's war, and then Isaac is like, "Hey, man, get on board with us. You know, get. We can do this behind Dracula's back, kind of usurp his authority." And so so Isaac's like, "You want me to betray Dracula?" He's like, "Well, only if he gets in the way." So then, while Godbrand's walking away, of course, Isaac, being fiercely loyal that he is, he takes the strap that he used to beat himself with, and wraps it around Godbrand's neck and proceeds to strangle him. He gravely injures Godbrand. Now, I know people are like, well, he's a vampire, and no human should be able to go toe-to-toe with a vampire. Isaac is not an ordinary human to a certain extent. Isaac can fight. All right, so, and, given... Now, Godbrand's no joke, because there's a scene where Godbrand takes out like 4 or 5 soldiers. Godbrand's no slouch, but Isaac, he had that advantage of surprise, so he gravely injures Godbrand, and then of course he hits him with the stake and with his forging knife, and kills Godbrand, takes Godbrand's ashes and scatters them, so no one knows where Godbrand is at. Okay. Kills Godbrand. Okay. Episode 5. We see that Isaac scatters Godbrand's ashes. Camilla's looking for Godbrand. No one knows where Godbrand is at. Isaac talk. Hector tells Isaac his concerns about Drax's war. Hector tries to convince Isaac to move Umbrella. Isaac agrees, knowing it will stop Camilla from causing more mischief. Isaac is keenly aware of what Camilla's up to. Isaac tells Dracula about the discord amongst the generals and convinces Dracula to move Umbrella. And so they decide to move Umbrella. Flashback scene of Dracula attacking 40 merchant marines for disrespecting him. And then we get the iconic shot that Vlad Tepes is always known for, the impaling of his victims. It was an awesome scene. Okay, Camilla then reveals to Hector she used him and refers to him as a puppy. So by then, everyone's cast their lot. It's too far gone. Basically, Drax is about to move the castle to Brayla. Camilla's plans are going forward. It's too late to turn back for anybody at this point. And that's when, Hector realizes he's in way over his head. He chose poorly, made the wrong decision, okay? Also, Cypher finds a locking spell to keep the castle from jumping from location to location. The spell is written in Adamic. Adamic is the ancient language of Adam and Eve. Interesting reference. Episode 6, The River. The Night Horde attacked the Belmont estate. Alucard works on a distance mirror in the estate so they can leave the castle, or leave the estate and go to the castle, to go find Dracula's castle through the mirror. Drac jumps the castle to Brayla. Drac's forces march on Brayla. Camilla then instructs her. Now here's what the plan why she wanted Hector to create a specific branch of loyal resurrected soldiers. So the priest that was murdered at the very first season. If you remember, in the first season, they sent one of the Night Hordemen to attack the priest or the bishop, and the bishop's like, "You can't come into the house of God." And then the demon says, "There is no God here," and just rips him apart. It was awesome. So that same resurrected bishop, Camilla instructs him to bless the river. So he blesses the river, turns it into a giant river of holy water. So then, as Drax forces to move across the bridge, Camilla's forces on the other side pull the bridge out from under them, and so a lot of the soldiers This forces fall into the river, the holy river, and they're incinerated. So now then Camilla instructs her soldiers to launch their own makeshift bridges to go back across the bridge so they can storm the castle, basically. Let's see what else. Okay, so while they're doing that, Trevor is trying to hold off the attack at the Belmont Estate while Cypher and Alucard work on what their mission is. Okay. Okay. So while Cypher is she finds a locking spell, she deciphers it. Her and Alucard have a quick conversation, quick but a very, very important conversation. That something we discussed before. Okay, Alucard fixes the mirror. Cypher then tells Alucard focus on the castle so she can see it, then focus her intent on it. Alucard responds, or he asks, "Your intent?" Cypher responds, "That's all magic is, changing things in accordance with my intent." Everybody missed out that. I know they did. Cypher then plans to bring the castle to the Belmont Estate. Camilla forces storm the castle. Isaac alerts Drake of the betrayal. During the struggle, Cypher jumps the castle right on top of the Belmont Estate. Okay, so now episode 7, For Love. The opening scene, there's a blood moon. Interesting. Cypher transports the crew into Dracula's castle. They engage Drac and Camilla's forces in a battle. Alucard shapeshifts into a wolf during the battle. Isaac demonstrates that he's willing to sacrifice his life for Dracula. Dracula states Isaac has a soul and is the best of the humankind, and then sends Isaac away to another dimension, or another place rather, through his mirror, through his Carpathian mirror. And Isaac's like, "No, don't send me away. You know, I want to help you." So he sends Isaac away, breaks the mirror. We'll get back to Isaac in a minute. Alucard and Dracula face off during the fight. They repel Drac's energy attack. Cypher and Trevor join in. So then, it's Dracula. Like, he whoops ass. Like, come on, stop. This is Dracula. Let me just say this real quick. The Dracula Alucard dynamic is very much similar to Vampire Hunter D and his issue with his long dead Dracula father. Vampire Hunter D, the Dampeel, he is he's a half-breed, just like Alucard is, and he can walk in the daylight. All the other vampires pretty much despise D for being a Dampeel. It's kind of the same backstory to a certain extent, but the only thing is with Vampire Hunter D is all the vampire generals. Dracula's long dead, but all the other vampire generals are out running amok, and D is running around pretty much cleaning up the mess. So that's kind of, if you heard this story before, that's kind of where it's similar but different. All right, so Alucard and Drac have a one-on-one. Dracula just starts unleashing on Alucard, starts knocking him. I mean, beating him into every room in the castle, literally. Like, you just knew at some point Dracula's gonna get pissed and just stop holding back on Alucard. So then he ends up knocking him into Alucard's old room in which he grew up with. And then he's like, "Oh my God, this is your old room." So Dracula literally has a change of heart. He's like, "Oh my God, me and your mother, we built this room for you, and I'm killing my boy. And he realized that the last gift that Lisa gave him, their son, he's basically trying to kill their last remaining remnants of her, which is Alucard. So Dracula realizes he's pretty much dead inside. He died when his wife died. He has nothing to live for. He's done this thing for so long, and he has one moment of happiness was taken from him. So he basically allows Alucard to stake him in the heart. And I was hoping that they would kind of like come to an uneasy truce and just kind of separate and walk away, and everyone just, call it a day. No. Alucard stakes Drac, man. I was just like, damn. So Dracula dies. Cypher and Trevor come in, and then Cypher burns the body, and you see all the different incantations that Dracula had possessed over the many centuries come out and go into a smoke and dissipate. It's pretty sad. Let me see. Body on Fire, episode 8 in time. So we're wrapping this thing up. Alucard, Cypher, and Trevor are rummaging through the castle. Alucard wishes to be buried in his father's castle, and literally sits on top of the Belmont estate. Trevor says no. Trevor then says, up here, your father's collected knowledge. Down there, the collected knowledge of your mother's people. Trevor then says, as above, so below. Okay, so then Trevor offers the Belmont estate to Alucard so that he may be the owner of both, and he will be the guardian of both the estates. Isaac, we get to Isaac. Isaac is somewhere in the desert drinking water. He gets approached by some robbers. They try to attack him. Isaac goes bananas and kills all of the robbers, and then he decides to resurrect them for his own army. And the last scene is Isaac walking across the desert with his newly resurrected minions in tow for the next set of adventures. Cypher then asks Trevor to go look for her caravan, and then to go to Brayla. Back at Brayla, we see Hector and Camilla talking. She then reveals to Hector that Drac is dead. He's like, how do you know? He said, we've seen it in the mirrors. So then she captures Hector as her slave to rebuild her new army. So Hector is now her slave, and Camilla beats him up literally beats him to a pulp, beats him into submission. Back at the castle, Alucard sees the ghostly image of his father walking down the steps. Then he goes into his room, has a throne, sits in the throne's room, puts the picture of his mother back up, and he reminisces on his childhood and his mother, and then he begins to cry in his throne. The end. Holy crap. This was such a moving and poignant and beautiful season for Castlevania. I pray that they do a season 3 and continue with everything that we've seen here. There's too many things left unsaid. You got a whole new vampire faction rising up with Camilla. She's a threat. She needs to be dealt with because she will be a problem. And I want to see the adventures of Hector and Isaac continue. Wow. I loved it. I binged this mother. I sat through it. It was worth it. I loved it. I liked it. Loved it. Liked it. Both. All right. So that normally I would be saying Super Slide 75 movie reviews with a twist. Yeah, this is going on both channels. It's too important not to. So you guys have a good one. All right. Peace.